So with the release of the Kingdom Hearts 3 Final Battle trailer and the ending that we got with, of course, Selves Da Caelem, a lot of people want to know what the hell are the 12 figures floating above the heads of Master Xehanort and Sora, if that is in case what's going on here. Now, I want to take a shot in the dark in trying to explain this, in the sense that, of course, I feel like there's a lot of things within the lore already that does explain exactly what these characters have become from the 13 Seekers of Darkness, but of course I want to actually go ahead and explain it and give you guys a bit of an explanation, because I see a lot of people asking about this on Twitter, and I feel like the answer is kind of already out there. So within Kingdom Hearts Key, within the lore of that game, we learned of something called a Darkling, and the best way I can explain a Darkling to you is that if you've been a part of the Kingdom Hearts fandom for a while and you know what a nobody is, of course they're essentially heartless forms of nobodies. And the reason why I say this is because when a person is separated into a heartless and a nobody, of course if they're strong-willed, the nobody will still have a level of sentience to it, and it will break off and become its own thing. It's essentially like the body and soul becoming their own thing, while the heart will become a heartless. Now, we've never known exactly what it was. There's no information on exactly what it was that caused Xehanort'S Heartless to come out and be Ansem the Seeker of Darkness, in which his Heartless still has sentience. But you can assume that it's potentially the same thing, in which Xehanort was more so balanced out with like darkness having prominence over the light within his heart. So maybe that's what gave his darkness a little bit more sentience, because he was already aligned with that. So I'm guessing that that's probably how it is. Now, when it comes to, of course, Kingdom Hearts Key and the Darklings, of course, we know that Darklings do also retain some form of sentience. And the reason why we know this is because, meanwhile, while Heartless, like the one that Sora became in Kingdom Hearts 1, was pretty much, of course, more so nature-based, in which that they don't speak, they don't have a clear motive as to why they do what the hell they do. They just do it. So it's more so seems like it's based on some you can say maleficent or malicious like nature to them, more so than it is something that they do consciously. And we know with Darklings it's different. They actually are conscious. So if they are conscious of what they're doing, then I'm gonna assume that, of course, that means that they have to be strong-willed, heartless in the same way that a strong-willed nobody, in a sense that, of course, a character that has a strong will, they will branch off, the body and soul will branch off into a nobody. And I'm guessing a Darkling is essentially what happens if you're not broken down, but of course your heart is consumed by the darkness and you transform into what is known as a Darkling. However, there also seems to be a classification a clarification towards how you become a Darkling. So not just anyone can become a Darkling, you apparently have to be a Keyblade wielder. And I feel like this makes sense because a Keyblade does have something to do with like the force of your heart, and Keyblades do actually respond to the hearts of their wielders. So it does kind of make sense in that sense that, of course, this is like probably a negative blowback from being a wielder of the Keyblade, especially if you wield a Keyblade that isn't necessarily on the spectrum of darkness than the spectrum of light, like we've seen with, of course, the Keyblades of light and the Keyblades of darkness. So obviously there's something about that intertwines. Now, when we bring up, of course, the figures within Selves Da Caelem, then of course to call them Darklings, can we actually make that clarification? Well, before we speak on that, let's talk about what we know from Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance, in which Bragg stated that in original planning, the idea of the Organization 13 was nothing more than to hook up 13 empty husks to Kingdom Hearts and fill them all with the exact same heart and mind. Translation, they were going to turn all the members into Xehanort. And over the past year, we thought that what that meant was that, of course, characters would be getting Norded in a sense of how we've seen throughout the trailers. Well, it seems like that's not actually the case. They still have the desire to hook them up to Kingdom Hearts and turn them into what they are now. Essentially what appears to be, of course, mindless bodies, mindless husks that Xehanort can use to do his bidding. As he states here in Selves Da Caelem, him and his 13 selves can be one, meaning that, of course, they must all share the exact same linked mind, on some kind of Nagato taking over like different bodies type shit when they were pain. It kind of seems like that's what it is. And when you think about that, let's talk more so about, like, of course, the Darkling part. So if we think, or if we have in the lore that there is some type of clarification that you have to be a Keyblade wielder, then how then would these 12 Seekers become Darklings if they're not Keyblade wielders. As we see within the trailers, none of them has yet to show that they can wield a Keyblade besides the characters that we already know do in fact wield a Keyblade. So recently we got the reveal of Xion. If that was in fact Xion, we got the reveal of Xion. We know that she's a Keyblade wielder, even if her Keyblade is like a proxy Keyblade. She's still a Keyblade wielder. We know that, of course, Dadariku, not a Keyblade wielder. We know that Vanitas is a Keyblade wielder. We know that young Xehanort can wield a Keyblade. However, he doesn't have a Keyblade of his very own. A Keyblade has not been bequeathed to him yet, which is why Master Xehanort had to take over his body for him to wield a Keyblade. And of course, we know, going off of that, those are probably the only 2 to 3 characters that should be able to wield a Keyblade. However, when it comes to, of course, what has already happened within the games, we know that obviously Master Xehanort has marked these characters by giving them a piece of his heart. And this is the process that we call being Norted. So with all of these characters being marked by Master Xehanort's little piece or fragment of his heart that's within them, then that kind of essentially makes them all essentially Keyblade wielders, because they're marked by that little piece of Master Xehanort's heart as Keyblade wielders, meaning that potentially, and this is a headcanon here, and I know this, that Master Xehanort can potentially take over all of these characters just like he did to young Xehanort in Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance. He can pass his soul through all of them, making them all viable to wield the Keyblade. And with, of course, that marker that's on them through, of course, the little piece of his heart that's within them, he's able to convert them into Darklings that he then can have full control over. Now, I know this is going to come up in the comments section, so I wanted to speak on this as the last point. Yes, the Darklings within, of course, Kingdom Hearts 3, if these are in fact Darklings, are differently designed from, of course, the Darklings within Kingdom Hearts Key, in which in Kingdom Hearts Key we get to see they wear what appears to be like some kind of hat over their head, or some kind of beanie over their head and stuff that kind of covers up their ears and things, and they look like essentially just Heartless in like a more humanoid kind of form. And I have to agree with you, because I can't not agree with you. That's exactly what they look like. But when it comes to Kingdom Hearts 3, we're talking about a game that has, of course, 3D graphics. Everything is represented in this fully detailed form. And obviously, of course, we can obviously see a lot of things that lead to, of course, us being able to make this clarification with these Darklings within Kingdom Hearts 3. This going from the fingers to, of course, I think even the shoes I think are kind of the same. If not, if I'm mistaken, who knows? And even on the box art of Kingdom Hearts 3, we see a Darkling, of course, trying to get his hands on this star. So obviously I'm thinking that instead of, we thought that that meant Xehanort will become a Darkling. However, this could be exactly what that's alluding to, that the 12 of the 13 will become Darklings, mindless little husk and bodies and stuff that Xehanort can use to do his bidding regardless of what it is. Why anyone would want to do this by choice, I'm talking about, of course, Xemnas, Ansem, Saix, potentially Xigbar. I hope not, because he's one of my favorites, and of course I feel like his own plans that he speak of is something that could lead into the next saga. Of course, it just seems like it's definitely likely. So that's pretty much all of the evidence that we have going off of the lore thus far that explains exactly who these 12 individuals are, or what these 12 individuals are in Scala Da Caelem, with of course Master Xehanort that Sora will be facing probably as the final battle. Now when it comes to the final battle, I did want to speak on this a little bit too, in which I wanted to state that I feel like it's going to be very interesting, because I feel that what's going to happen is that these 12 individuals are going to fight with Master Xehanort. So yes, I do believe we will be fighting all 13 as simply just Sora. But I feel like what's going to be interesting about it is that, as we know, you can switch Keyblades within Kingdom Hearts 3. I feel like at a certain point, we're going to be able to choose 3 Keyblades from, of course, the 7 Guardians, who also wield Keyblades. When you do this, you'll be bringing a bit of that power with you into the battle. So pretty much, you'll have, let's say Riku. Riku has a heart that allows him to use the power of darkness without being corrupted by darkness. So if you mix his Keyblade into your set, then you could potentially use the power of darkness and the power of light, and of course you can potentially call upon him in battle, in which he'll be there kind of in spirit, kind of like what we saw in Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance at the end in the world that never was, when they use, of course, I forgot what it was, to where, like, you know, they open up paths and stuff like that. Remember when they would come together and they would like make that Keyblade, and they would like tear down doors or tear down, of course, walls and stuff that they could tear down to get to new places? I feel like that's what they're kind of gonna do with this here, in which of course you'll have characters that you can call upon depending on which characters you put into your set, and then Master Xehanort will have, of course, his 13 Seekers or his 12 Darklings against Sora and the 7 Guardians, and it'll be in a sense to where Sora has all of his different forms, or the characters that are connected to him all fighting from within him, and of course it'll be Xehanort having his 12 Seekers and himself fighting against you physically. And I feel like this is going to be interesting because it could lead to like different setup and mix-ups of the different abilities that we know characters have that we've never had before within the series. So let me know what you guys think about this. Do you think these characters are in fact Darklings? I definitely think that, of course, going off the lore, there's a lot there to propose that they are. However, they may be strong-willed Darklings, or maybe the ability or maybe the piece of Xehanort within them is what made them form out or come out like this, in the same sense of how Ansem didn't come out as just a regular Heartless. So let me know what you guys think. This has been your boy Amaziah. Don't forget to do a little A-class gaming, and everything you do, don't forget to keep it A-class, and I'll catch you guys in the next one, man. Peace the heck out.